And so just welcome. So glad you were able to join us today. Uh, Excited about our MTSS network meeting for today. We have two wonderful guests with us, and I'll go ahead and switch to the agenda. Um, Welcome and sign in. Just so happy you all taken the time to be with us today to talk all things MTSS. We do have from Kentucky Avery, Beth Gurney, that's going to be sharing some resources with us that they provide. We also have with us Dr. Melissa Wainwright from KDE that's going to provide us with some updates from KDE and some great information that is out there to be sure everybody's aware of. So I am going to go ahead and welcome Beth. And Beth, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today to share all the awesome resources that you all have. So I will stop sharing and it's all yours.
Perfect. Thank you for having me. Let me share. Let's see. Okay. So my name is Beth Gurney. Like she said, normally Patty Whitney is your Kentucky Avery liaison, but she is on a cruise this week. So I am just going to share some of our resources that we have available and just kind of explain the transition that Kentucky Avery has had over the last few years with our changes in priorities that come from OSEAL. So Kentucky Avery started out with an MTSS focus. It stands for Academic and Behavioral Response to Intervention. But with OSEAL switching from that MTSS focus and then creating the new department that Melissa Wainwright will talk about, we are specifically a special education focus at this point. A big part of our work is supporting districts that are identified CCEIS. So we provide intensive support for those districts that are currently identified, and we are able to provide some supplemental support for those districts if they're in year 1 or year 2 and have received notification that they are disproportionate in some area with CCEIS. So that is a big part of our work. And then the other part of our work is creating and delivering statewide trainings that OSEAL supports and that are open and free for everyone in the state. So some of those do have a crossover with MTSS. So I will share our updated website, which we are excited that it's finally in a usable state. So I will share some resources there on the Cybers website. And then on the Kentucky Avery website, we have some additional resources that I will just share with you all. So the first is the Cybers website. That's the one that we're most excited about, that looks the best. So this is the landing page, just the cybers.com. And you can see when you go there, it will ask you what you're wanting to do. So there's a video tab, which is going to just have all of the videos that have been created there. You can search in the search box if you're searching for something specific, or you can choose one of these strands and you will see the videos that relate. So if we go to instruction, you can see we can find some partner and team engagement strategies. So those would be some OTR related courses there. There are also old videos if you prefer the old. We're calling them vintage Kentucky Avery videos. So those are the ones that are longer, that we have figured out people don't have the attention span or time anymore. So we've gone shorter, but some people have said, oh, I really liked that 20-minute long video. So we have thrown them in just if you prefer. that way. Honestly, the content is, is still current, but those are just the longer videos. Then there are very, very short videos. So if you are training your staff, for instance, and you need an example of possibly a turn and talk OTR in secondary, you can go there and you can find just probably a 1 minute or so example that you can show to your staff within your professional learning. Any questions there before I move on?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We have 4 available courses. So we have high leverage practices, co-teaching, Tier 1 foundational classroom practices, and then PBIS Tier 1. So with those are going to be a series of videos that are going to have questions embedded, and then you can register and earn a badge. So, and to earn that badge, this is kind of a convoluted process, unfortunately, until we figure out a better one. There's a link that says earning a badge, and you would go here and say request a spot in the course, and it would take you to a Google form. So, and then after you or your staff member completes that course, they will receive a certificate, and then ELA credit is provided if that applies. So that is all on the Kentucky ABRE website. Or the Cybers website. Any questions there before I move on?
Feel free to unmute or type something in the chat, whatever you feel comfortable with.
I did have one that I really like on the site. I think it's a strategy in a minute or something that I think that's what it's called. But those
strategies in seconds.
Yes, those are I think really great ones.
I see these being really helpful for like a PD coordinator. I'll just be honest, when I was in district as a PD coordinator, I didn't even know that the Kentucky ABRE site, I wasn't even aware of all the resources on it at the time. And that's been a few years now. It's been like, was that 2-3 years? Almost, it's been 2 years, I guess. But there were just all kinds of wonderful resources that could have been so helpful. And so just that was another reason I wanted to make sure that you were here to share some of this, because you'll have a lot of really good things that could be utilized in districts to help us, just some real quick trainings for some of their people.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we've used these strategies in seconds a lot for small little PLC trainings, and that has been super helpful. Yeah, those actually started when we were trying to train and then going, oh, we need examples of this. Teachers need examples of what it looks like. So that's where those came about. We're going in an hour or so to an elementary school in JCPS to film some math instruction. So yeah, to get some real life examples. So we know those are important.
That's great.
Then we do have 3 video series that are not yet updated to the website. There's always a lag there. And so I put those links in there. If that's something that you need right now, then those are there for you. So the first is co-regulation. There are 4 parts of that. There's a researcher spotlight with Terry Scott, and there are 4 videos for that series. And then there's the opportunities to respond. There are 6 videos here. And this one is based on Terry Scott, Justin Cooper, and Todd Whitney's new engagement book that has just been released. Let me get the name of that, so I get it correct. It is Creating an Actively Engaged Classroom. So we have made videos to go along with that book. And we'll continue to create more of those. And then we have the Kentucky Avery website, which, because it is on the U of L site, still looks like it did, 15 years ago. So within that, we still have the training documents and forms page up. And so those have the multi-tiered systems of support documents. And I know, Melissa, your team has revised some of these that are now on your websites, but here's some vintage documents in case those are helpful. And then some PBIS documents there. Also on the Kentucky Avery page are the training events that we have coming up. So you can see the events that we have going throughout the state, and you can see over here if they are open for additional participants or if they are not open. Most of the ones right now are, of course, the Kentucky CEC conference. So there will be lots of sessions that we are doing there related to literacy for students with disabilities. There are some foundational literacy sessions that I'm doing, and then Gwen, Barry, and Patty are doing a Kansas strategy session there. There's also a co-regulation session, and then a CCEIS, so a prevention focused CCEIS session. And then the last thing, we have a Twitter page. If you're a Twitter user, I think it's called a Twitter handle in the links there.
Awesome.
And that's all I have.
Well, that is a lot of stuff, though. That is a lot of good information in there. Does anybody have any questions for Beth for us, or anything to add in the chat, or feel free to unmute and speak? But I know some of us prefer just to type in the chat, but please take just a, is there any questions? Well, we so appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, Beth. All kinds of wonderful resources, and like I said, a lot of good things for I always thought it was just a great resource for PD coordinators too. So if they saw a need for a particular area, they could pull some information there for some personalized PD. So I think that's just wonderful. Just think it's a great resource. So thank you so much for being here today with us. It's a wonderful website and wonderful organization, and I appreciate you taking the time being with us. So I'm sure I'll still be in touch, probably
Yes,
reaching out
please
again.
do. Thank you for having me. Have a good rest of your Tuesday.
You too. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. I will go back to sharing my screen. Let's see, I'll be on the side. Let's go here. And yeah, that's the one I want to share. Hopefully, let's see if I get this right. One day I just goofed up. So what I just did is I added, so there's the first site that you all saw when she came on, and then the links I've added to the next page. And so I had not put this in the participant folder yet, so you will have access to all of these, and I'll be sure to I'll do that if I can, even during our time here, but if not, I'll drop them in the participant folder just as soon as we're finished today. But wonderful information, a lot of great resources. I wasn't kidding when I said I didn't even realize a lot of that information was out there as when I was in district, till I went to work for a space of time at KVE, and there was such a wealth of professional learning out there that I had no idea existed. And so that was part of the reason of just wanting to make sure you all are aware of those resources. Now, you all probably already knew it, but I didn't. So, that I'm always learning. It seems like it's something great, something new, great out there to be able to use. We'll go on, and so glad to have Dr. Melissa Wainwright with us today. Bless her heart, she is awesome. She's even joining us from her phone. So I am going to utilize her PowerPoint. She's going to direct me of going through it. And so we will switch to her PowerPoint. And so just so glad. Thank you so much, Melissa, for being here today with us. We always enjoy having you and you sharing just all the great things going on in our state. So I'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Great to be here. It's all right to go on to the next slide. I yesterday afternoon received word that my internet was going to be upgraded today, and that's when I said, Mary, I'm going to have to share these slides with you and have you share. It's great to be here with you. If you hear a little bit going on, it's my internet that's being updated. These were just a few kind of grounding questions, and I think it blends nicely with what we just heard about KY Abry. And I find it really nice to see the circle of KY Abry. I started with what she's calling the Vintage Abry Project as a principal, a high school principal, and we were one of their pilot schools to start building the work of what's now Vintage Abry, and to see where it has evolved over the years is really exciting, and to see it now with the new kind of facelift, if you will. But some of those vintage materials are still very useful and helpful, and I think what I'm going to share with you today will blend nicely with what we just heard. As I think about being a leader in this work, these are some of the questions I ask myself. What are resources that I might utilize to build that common language and understanding? I was just talking with a district leader about a week ago and said, knowing we've worked with them for some years and they're pretty far along in the implementation process, I said, what do you wish you had known that would have been so helpful to you? And she said, I would have taken my time to build common language and understanding with my teams. I would have taken more intentionality in our meetings to make sure that we were speaking the same language and we had an understanding of what we were doing. And I think that's really important, that we continue to speak the same language in our schools and in our districts, because it may not mean exactly the same thing in each of your districts. There are common essential elements. However, you know best the context of your schools and your district to make sure that that is an understanding of what this work really means. And then thinking about in your role, how do you provide technical assistance and support? How do you help other leaders to gain common knowledge and understanding? And then I am always in search of this. What additional resources or support might be helpful to me in the process? So thinking about always being a learner, I am now, my learning journey is I'm curious about what is research saying currently about the impact of this work. And that's kind of where I am. And what additional resources do I have? What are other states? What in the nation? What are we seeing as ways that people are building structures and frameworks that really equip our teachers with what they need and help our students to maximize their achievement? Those are some questions that I ask myself as I'm in this work. And then on the next slide is a quote that I hope you've seen it. Your region, Ronnie Goins represented the region in one of the Kentucky teacher feature stories about their work. And they had primarily started last fall, roughly about this time, where KVEC hosted a larger MTSS kind of summit day of learning with the 6 essential elements. And Ronnie said this, and I think it really is good for all of us to think when we're starting something new. And he said, I think if I had waited until we had everything ready, we would still be waiting to kick it off. We sometimes have to start. And no, not sometimes. We have to start. And it can be scary. And we can think, well, I don't know enough. I don't have this. We have to start. And Ronnie would be one of the first to say everything isn't exactly where they want it. They've started and they're continuing to build. And on that slide, I did link the article if you haven't read it. And what I love about this feature story is that they started, they committed to it, and they're staying with it. So the article is on Letcher County taking their first steps. And if someone is out there and you have a success in a certain area, I am wanting to continue this series into 2024. And my hope is that we represent all the different regions of the state, and then we get to go back around and hear other feature stories. And when you are reading those, understand that the districts may not have all 6 essential elements going in the way they want, but they have taken a step to move in that direction. And I hope as you read those, you find some hope and some insight in reading those stories. And as was mentioned before, we have the KYMTSS website. If you are not receiving it, there's a star up at the top of that slide, and it says sign up for KYMTSS newsletter. I try in those to make it practical and applicable to what's happening at that time of year, or information that I think is time sensitive. The one that's coming out this week is actually on synergy, and that is where we gain momentum by celebrating small wins, big wins, and gaining some goodwill as we move forward in the process. And 3 districts are featured in that, and Letcher is one of them. Next to that, our newsletter archives. If you have not been receiving the newsletters, those have some past articles that feature help with manuals, help with tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, database decision making, the early literacy act that's out. So there's lots of information on that if you want to go back. And then you'll see 2 rounded rectangles. One says essential elements and one says resource library. The essential elements, it's a drop down and it has 6 of the essential elements, takes you to that page. And then the resource library, I'm going to share some of those with you today. That's where you'll see documents, legislation, resources that would help you.
Okay, she froze. Or is that me? Melissa, are you there?
I think it's her, Mary.
Okay, I was just worried because sometimes I have dropped. Ronna saying that, I'm going to make you co-host just in case I do drop,
Okay.
because that's happened a time or two on me. So I should have done that at the first. Melissa, are you there? Because she is on her phone, and I was worried for her that um, this might happen to her. I'll give her just a second. But what she was mentioning with the
She's back.
news, is she back?
She's back.
There she is. I can't hear you though.
Well,
Yeah.
I told you I was on my phone. What I forgot to do was use my non-internet, and so I was on my Wi-Fi. So sorry about that. I'm here.
That's okay.
Did anybody
okay.
have, I don't know if we have any talkers in this Zoom room right now.
Any questions or comments so far? It really is a great website. I really do like it. I mean, I can get on there and search for and find all kinds of great resources on there.
Also, I forgot to mention the magnifying glass. That's the search where you can, if there's a tool that you want to go back to, you can search, or a topic. And on the next slide, what I wanted to point out here, each of the essential elements has a page that is a landing page for that essential element. And you'll see where it says featured resource. I am in the process and have already updated some of those featured resources. And my hope with that is to continue to refresh that with perhaps either some really in-time resources that I want to cycle back around to, or some new ones. And specifically on the tier delivery system, we have some that I share the link to later on tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 infographics, just to remind you that those featured resources aren't the only resources, but those are some that might be highlighted for that season. And then below there are lots of resources, and many of the CYBERS and KY American Institute for Research, those are on there, as well as the National Center on Intensive Intervention. Those are there for you. On the next slide, two of my go-tos that I really, I guess you would say, let people who are leading this work, these are kind of foundational pieces. In my work, when I before coming here, I was in a cooperative. I used these with districts. Well, I did not. The self-assessment is new. I would have loved to have had it. I used the implementation guide, which I feel like they go really well together. And the self-assessment is the one on the left. That is where you and your team can talk through each essential elements and determine where you are in the process, make some notes of where you want to go. Then the accompanying implementation guide is broken down into the 6 essential elements and would be able to provide support to you and your team as you're walking through the process. If you haven't used the self-assessment tool, I will say that we've received very positive feedback about it in teams having wonderful conversations. It is not a fidelity measure, as is the American Institute for Research. It's intended to be a way to have questions asked with you and your team and have discussions. Next slide.
Uh-oh, what'd I do? Oh, I clicked on it. I'm sorry, Melissa. All right.
No problem.
Oh, I clicked on it. You've got them hyperlinked. That's great that you've done that.
Oh, yes, they're all of the resources that I have on here, I believe, are hyperlinked.
Okay.
The next part is a feature resource, I believe, that is very essential and helpful to teams and groups of people as they are establishing their teams or onboarding people. And it's a 4-part video collection. And the first one is on the integrated MTSS framework, one on secondary schools, one on evidence-based practices, and one on tier 2 and tier 3 processes. I believe today the decision was to look at the MTSS as an integrated framework. Before we show the video, Mary, may we show them the next slide that has the participant and facilitator guides. Each video has an accompanying facilitator and participant guide. The facilitator guide has all that's in the participant guide embedded in it. The participant guide is a little shortened for, doesn't have as much of the directions. The facilitator guide will actually take you through a 45-minute to a 60-minute session that you could host with a group of people. And then it goes through the same format of what's the purpose, what are the materials, how much time, what are questions that you could ask. There's different groupings of questions in terms of large group, small group, individual. And then at the end of each guide is an opportunity for extended learning, that this could help to extend it from that initial viewing to making some chunks of repetitive learning along the way. Some great activities in there that help with, if you're working on your scheduling or common questions that would happen with the theme of that video. Then it also has for the facilitator the language that's used in the video, so common vocabulary, and it gives a video outline with the key features of that slide that might be with the video. That just helps the facilitator to walk through what's happening there. And now I think we're going to watch the first video, and then, Mary, depending on how much time we have, we can decide on the facilitator guide how much we want to debrief on that.
Okay. Well, I will go and I will pull the video over here because I know how busy everybody is. And so we kind of thought that this would just be a good opportunity for you to get to watch and see. They are very short. It's just a 10-minute video. So just going to let you take time to sit and get to watch through the first video. We did that in a training because I know we're so pushed on time, and unless, we get to do something like this in a training that we're in, as soon as you get off this meeting, the next task is in front of you, and there's probably 3 already piled up while you've been in the meeting, I am sure. So we were kind of thinking it would be good just to go and watch this as a part of our time here together. So I am going to push this back and we'll just let you have time to watch. Just if you will give me a thumbs up, Melissa, if you can hear it when I click play, since I can see you, and we'll go ahead and just let you and just kind of look and think about how you could utilize this resource on this. So here's the video. Thank you.
Hi. Welcome to the KVEC video modules on multi-tiered systems of supports, or MTSS. In this first module, we're going to introduce to you an integrated MTSS, providing the definitions and descriptions that we use here in Kentucky. We think it's important that we share a common language as we work together to maximize success for all students. In addition, we'll talk about the essential components of Kentucky's MTSS framework, or Kentucky MTSS, for schools and districts, as well as provide some examples of the process. To start, when we talk about tiered systems, it simply means schools provide a primary level of support for all, a second, more intensive level of support for those who need more than the primary level provides, and a third, more individualized level of support for those students with the greatest needs. Because of the empirically demonstrated benefits, MTSS is identified by the U.S. Department of Education as an evidence-based practice. It's important to stress here that tiers identify action, not students. There are no Tier 2 kids or Tier 3 kids, but students who receive Tier 2 and Tier 3 evidence-based interventions and supports. Each of these distinct tiers represents what adults do, the focus of our efforts, the types of interventions we use, and the amount of intensity and specificity we use, given what students need. So when we talk about Tier 3, for example, we're not talking about kids, we're talking about our actions. The logic of MTSS is not unique to schools. It has been well studied in education as a method for prevention of academic failure, disciplinary removal, disproportionality, and social and mental health deficits related to trauma and adverse childhood experiences. The most compelling of these studies are the large-scale meta-analyses that analyze effects across numerous studies. The logic of the three-tiered model is often represented by a triangle, in which Tier 1 prevention is represented by green, supplementary supports at Tier 2 represented by yellow, and intensely individualized supports at Tier 3 represented by red. But note that Tier 2 does not take the place of Tier 1, and Tier 3 supports do not take the place of Tiers 1 or 2 supports. The tiers are layered so that students receiving support in Tiers 2 or 3 continue to participate fully in Tier 1 while receiving additional supports. MTSS is often used as an umbrella term to describe any multi-tiered system of supports, whereas PBIS, or Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports, refers to this system when it's applied to behavior, and RTI, or Response to Intervention, refers to this system when it's applied to academics. You may also have heard of the terms social emotional learning and comprehensive school mental health, which expand the focus to the promotion of social competencies and mental health wellness. Schools often implement these separate from academics and behavior with separate teams, data, and practices, and little or no interaction or communication between them. Kentucky's framework for MTSS includes all of these components: PBIS, RTI, social emotional, and mental health wellness. So when we use the term Kentucky MTSS, the full integration of all domains is inherent and assumed. Because our students are complex and unique individuals, we can't assume challenges in any one domain are not related to challenges in any other domain. In fact, comorbidity among these domains has been well established. So, for example, when we consider students whose behavioral challenges are inhibiting success, we must look at them holistically, using a whole child approach, considering how academic, social emotional, and mental health challenges may be contributing factors and how a comprehensive intervention plan might address each. In Kentucky, The Department of Education has identified 6 essential elements of an integrated MTSS in schools and districts that maximizes student opportunities for success. These include equitable access and opportunity, a tiered delivery system with a continuum of supports, collaborative problem-solving teams, data-based decision-making with a comprehensive screening and assessment system, selection of evidence-based instructional and intervention supports, and family, school, and community partnerships. The first essential element involves ensuring equitable access and opportunity for every student across the state. As such, there's an intentional focus on promoting positive, equitable, and inclusive learning environments and experiences for all students. That means every student has access to the educational resources and rigor they need at the right moment. A commitment to equitable access and opportunity is essential in order to maximize success for all students. You'll recall that Kentucky MTSS is characterized by prevention with increasing levels of intensity for those students who need it. The tiers of MTSS identify instruction, interventions, and supports rather than students. So as another essential element, a tiered delivery system with a continuum of supports is a preventative and responsive set of guidelines across domains and tiers to meet student needs and maximize success. Movement through the tiers is a flexible and fluid process based on student assessment data and data-based team decisions. Collaborative problem-solving teams, another essential element of the Kentucky MTSS framework, exist at multiple implementation levels, including district, school, grade level, or content and individual student levels. These collaborative problem-solving teams reflect a diverse cross-section of key stakeholders and initiatives prioritized by the district and school. Teams have a shared goal of promoting positive outcomes for all students and are responsible for design, monitoring, and implementation, followed by evaluation of success. A team approach facilitates collaboration and communication among all stakeholders. Collaborative problem-solving teams will be explored in depth in future modules. Data-based decision-making is a hallmark of Kentucky MTSS and an essential element of any effective system. Key to this is the comparison of outcomes to expectations or goals. Data measuring the degree to which school-wide programs or individual intervention goals were met provide the best information for future decision-making. A systematic process for collecting and analyze high-quality, valid, and reliable data is key to ensuring systems at all levels are effective and equitable in promoting success across academic, behavior, social-emotional, and mental health domains. Within database decision-making, MTSS teams must consider the universal academic, behavior, and social-emotional wellness screening data. All students are screened on an ongoing basis, typically 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring, and data are regularly analyzed alongside other relevant school-wide data. The predictive power of screening data is a hallmark of Kentucky MTSS, allowing data-based decision-making and providing districts and schools what they need to intervene early with individual students or groups of students. Screening data also allows for monitoring of the effectiveness of programs and strategies across tiers. Other data to be considered as part of the database decision-making process could include progress monitoring data, early warning indicators, equity dashboard data, stakeholder surveys, and even community data. In Kentucky, all instructional practices should be driven by the preponderance of empirical evidence. That is, for any given practice, there likely is some semblance of evidence. But when considering the success of all students in the Commonwealth, schools are responsible for using those interventions and instructional practices that have been identified as evidence-based. One example is the Institute of Educational Sciences What Works Clearinghouse website, funded by the U.S. Department of Education. Schools and districts should review the research on high-quality instructional programming and resources across all domains and tiers to choose programs, practices, and interventions with sufficient evidence of positive outcomes when implemented as designed and within a matching cultural context. The final essential element identified in Kentucky's framework is family, school, and community partnerships. The goal is for districts and schools to engage in meaningful ways with stakeholders to support positive student outcomes. The long-term goal is to promote positive outcomes for families as well as the local community. Partnerships can be facilitated by creating shared mission and vision statements, creating welcoming environments, including student, family, and community voice in the decision-making process, promoting communication with newsletters and positive notes or phone calls, inviting community agencies to partner on projects and initiatives, and building relationships with existing businesses to promote career development and employability skills. This module has provided a basic overview of Kentucky's integrated MTSS framework and essential elements, with a focus on integrating academic, behavior, social, emotional, and mental health domains. Kentucky is committed to promoting positive outcomes and maximizing student success as we focus on the whole child. In the next module, we'll talk about what Kentucky MTSS implementation looks like in a district or school.
Thank you. I don't know if that's your first time seeing it or if you've seen it before. After the viewing, it would be time if this were being done in a 45 to 60-minute session, to go through the debrief questions. And again, those are in large group, small group, and individual. And you as a facilitator would be able to determine what questions you wanted to ask. I'd like to pose to the group, either to unmute or put it in the chat, how might you see utilizing this video, whether it's this one or the others in the video collection, and the facilitator guide in your district with your schools? And Mary, would you want to talk them through what you just did to find that? Because I was watching you do that, I think.
Yeah, I personally, for me, especially if we've not really in our district made the dive into utilizing and talking the language of MTSS, I could see this video being very helpful, because so much of that language, everybody's familiar with the tiered supports and those types of things. To me, the videos are very helpful to do. It's just a 10-minute video. That's a very quick, to share with people in your team, whether it's your district team, your school level team, and just to kind of talk through. But yes, I will show you how I went through. If I go to the home page, let's make sure that everybody can get to the so right here's the home page of MTSS. And so I just scrolled down to the videos and selected the one that we watched, and it actually pulls up all of them. And so this is the one we just watched. And as you look down, right underneath it is the facilitator guide and the participant guide. So much work is done for you. Now, that does not mean that you cannot take these guides, right, Melissa, and tweak them and do your own spin because of what fits for you in your district. But some of these are just a help for you too in preparation and talking with, oh, look at there's Melissa on the look at there you are. Look at there. So just kind of a very good resource.
And that also, Mary, they can
go ahead.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead and tell what you were going to.
All I was going to say is the other way, in case that isn't always on the homepage, it's under the resource library additionally, and it says video collection. There,
this one right here, the KY video collection. So under
either way. Mm-hmm. Either way.
Okay. That's a very good point, because it may not always be there. That's great. So it's right there at the top. So are you all going to add more videos, Melissa? Are there more things planning to be released for the videos?
Potentially. I have actually been going out to, or having different people videoing team leads, team members, and that very well may be something that becomes a compilation of, actually, these are people doing the work and what are they saying.
Okay,
we don't have a contract right now to do videos, but I'm hoping to have some. I really feel like people are wanting to hear, how is this actually? I feel like talking to practitioners is a great way to do that.
Oh yes, what it looks like.
And for each video, then the participant guide. On this one, on the facilitator guide, it does have, if you were wanting to build the common understanding of the 6 essential elements, there's a jigsaw activity and a website exploration activity if you were trying to have ongoing learning about the 6 essential elements.
So is that right? Is that like on down here, like the jigsaw activity? I've got that pulled up. Okay, so there's even a handout.
Yes.
Okay, there's the jigsaw activity slides, a 3, 2, 1 jigsaw. So a lot of work already done for you. So if you wanted to utilize these, it would be a great resource in prepping and sharing with your district as you're establishing or working with your already established district teams and school level teams on this. So just one of the big things is just, these were just released, what, in August, Melissa? Or September?
September, I believe. Yes, I believe it was late August, might have been the first one, and then we released them. Yeah, you're right. It was August and then September.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think you made a really good point that the guides were created to help people with their work. However, as leaders, take it, use it, change it. You may, on the slides, I made a slide deck for the jigsaw activity, but take what you want, change what you want, and make it personalized to your learning environment. And unless people have questions about that, I think now you're aware of that. I have heard of places using it for onboarding when their teams are up and going and they feel like their group understands the 6 essential elements, but they get someone new. It's a way for that onboarding of new staff.
That's awesome. That's a great way to use it, is onboarding, because as we're seeing in all districts, it seems like there's a lot of turnaround. That's a wonderful suggestion.
And then after the video collection, I also wanted to highlight a few things in case people aren't aware of this. This is new for this school year. I am hosting virtual sessions with new MTSS coordinators and district MTSS points of contact. I have switched to Zoom because I learned at the last time, well, I knew it, but it really became apparent to me that I needed the feature of Zoom to have people be able to choose their breakout rooms. And on the newsletter this week, these Zoom links are there. The intent of the district MTSS point of contact is to give an additional layer of support to district leads, people coming together from all over the state that have that role. And really, it's going to be driven by what those district leads want. It's a place to say, here are resources, here's what we're using, have time in breakout rooms to talk to one another, to ask questions. And the next one of those is November 30th. You can join on Zoom. I'll say this, it's structured but informal. I have things prepared in the event that we need them. However, if there are from the group a desire to really talk about either barriers that are happening or share successes, that is a space to come together for district points of contact. And every district in the state has an MTSS point of contact. It's another layer of support. And then the other is, I'm going to keep this as an ongoing for new MTSS coordinators. People change even throughout the year, and people are allowed to come to, well, anyone can come to it. The space is intended to be for new people to have a space to see the resources, to have time to look at them, and to really begin to understand their new role. Many times the content covered at district might be the same as MTSS, how the new coordinator. However, the new MTSS coordinator may cycle back to the beginning because we're going to have a new cycle of people. If either one of those are of interest to you, share those, attend those. And they're self-standing, so it doesn't have to build on the next one, just a time to connect and ask about resources. And I always love, if you have a great resource, please share it, because I work with people and I would love to share your expertise and your findings as well. Then the last few slides are some of my favorites, I guess you would say, my go-tos if I were packing a bag and had just a few things I could take with me on an MTSS journey. These from the American Institute for Research are, all of those are fairly new documents. The flip book is very recent, within the month. The first 4 are infographics, really great for helping the visual learner piece of looking at the infographics and explaining the tiers. And then each of the tier 1 explains it, tier 2, tier 3. And then the flip book is on the problem solving model.
I'm trying to click on some of them for them. Sorry.
No, and if there's time and you want to give them time to explore, I don't know how much time you have for them. If you haven't looked at the American Institute for Research on MTSS, the work of Kentucky has been modeled off of national research and utilizing the American Institute for Research. Just a really nice way of walking through that problem-solving team structure.
Yeah, these are all great resources.
I've had really good feedback when using those infographics with instructional coaches and chief academic officers on the visual of that tier 1 infographic, essentials of tier 2, really when you're thinking about working with your interventionist, and that would be academic, behavioral, social, emotional. And
I'm sorry if I'm not clicking right.
No, you're fine. You're doing great. Just some great conversations that can be had in an MTSS meeting. Perhaps you have a little time of learning. These would be great. Use one for each meeting of the month and walk through them and have some conversations. Most recently, I was with a group of math instructional coaches from around the state, and they found these to be very helpful in having dialogues with, well, among the coaches as well as then back in their schools. And then the next slide, after the American Institute for Research, I put this in here. It is a data protocol slide that I put together. I didn't create the words. I just made a slide that if you are wanting to use it, you're welcome to. Going through the 4-step problem solving model protocol. And then at the data protocol, that actually links to the protocol that's highlighted on KYMTSS. Really something you could just use if you are wanting to talk that through with your team.
Awesome. That's great. That's a handy resource.
And then after that one, another one of my American Institute for Research infographics that I really love on data. I think it really helps to think about the different levels of data that we have and why we use them. And then the final slide has links that are highlighted on KYMTSS, the Cybers Initiative Inventory, and then some from the last one, Intensive Intervention Meeting. It is on our website, but it's from the National Center for Intensive Intervention. People ask a lot about agendas, so those are some samples. There's also, I believe, 2 or 3 months ago, one of the newsletters was on specifically team meetings and creating agendas and how to be efficient with the process.
That's wonderful. Wonderful resources. Thank you so much, Melissa, for pulling those all together for everyone. You really nailed a lot of what our planning committee had asked for. And so you've got all of those ready for people to be able to access. So that is awesome. Thank you so much. I did drop in the chat a link to Melissa's PowerPoint so that you have that direct link. I also will put our PowerPoint with links to it as well, so that you will have multiple ways to be able to access her PowerPoint with all of these wonderful links that has been shared. Is that the
And my
last page, Melissa?
Yes, ma'am. And my email's on the first page. I know you're in great hands with your cooperative. I'm here as an additional support for you if needed. I did change the date on my end to the 14th, so when they get it, it should be, if my internet was working at that moment. I think I had one day. Oh, it's corrected on yours. Okay, great, perfect.
Yeah.
My email's there. Feel free to reach out. Actually, the highlight of my job is getting to be able to support people in the work. And if I can ever be of support, be it a listening partner to the work that you're doing, I encourage you to remember that quote from Ronnie about starting. If he hadn't started, they wouldn't be where they are. Take a step, take your next step, and I wish you success.
Oh, thank you so
Thank you.
much. Does anybody have any questions for Melissa before we move on? Any questions or comments for her? Please don't hesitate. Make use of your time as we have her here. And so appreciate her taking the time to be with us. I'm not seeing anything in the chat. I know a lot of people are probably just processing and kind of going through, and we'll think of things as time goes on. But be sure to reach out if you have any questions. Be happy to help support you in any way that we can. If not, then I guess we can go on to the next slide. Melissa, are you going to hang around with us, or are you going to head on off? I thought you might.
I may listen for a little bit, and then I'll go to another meeting. It's been great to be with you all. I love anytime I can be with KVEC, and it's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here today. If I go back to our agenda, the next thing on our agenda was a check-in where we had our guest with Kentucky Avery and with Melissa being with us today. I held that to the next place. And so was going to do like a rose, thorn, and bud check-in with you all. And so whether you want to utilize personal, it would really be nice with MTSS to make, what's something you're grateful for in that you are pleased with MTSS, maybe in your district. And if you cannot make that connection, then let it be a personal positive that you have that you would want to share. Thorn, what are your challenges and stressors? I know we all have some of those that you're going through, and trying to make that connection to MTSS. My rose is that I'm so thankful and grateful that we have started our network. So this is we've got our MTSS network. I did have some stressors because anytime it seemed like we tried to schedule a date, something came up. And so I was really stressing about trying to get our first date in. So I'm glad we've got that in. And so we've got other dates set. So we're going to keep those in place. But that was a stressor for me with our MTSS. And then, Bud, what do you look forward to? And what are your dreams and hopes? And just, I guess also just, just so pleased that Ronnie shared with Letcher County what they have went through, and just hoping that more districts will, work to, because a lot of you are already doing the work in so many ways. It's just not that connection to the MTSS language and, the whole system. A lot of us had been doing the behavior and the academic work and a piece of SEL in there too. But a lot of us haven't done that whole tying it together and initiating that MTSS structure. So that's my hope and dream as we get more doing with that. So I've shared my rose, my thorn, my bud. So I'm going to let you all take turns about, and I'm going to pull up my participant list if I can find you all. So don't jump off and run from me. Does anybody want to volunteer to go next? with a rosebud thorn or rose thorn bud. I'm doing it backwards. Sorry. I put my bud before my thorn. Anybody else? If not, I will.
I'll go ahead.
Oh, thank you,
What
Bernadette.
I'm grateful for, and I feel very positive about it, is that people are seeing that connection between of everything that falls under MTSS. You know, DEIB, SEL, academics, everything falls under there. And I love the way you went through and showed the website. And I'm very grateful to see that it's all being tied together, because nothing exists in a separate silo. It's all to make for one thing, and it all falls under. So I'm very grateful for that. I think the challenges and stressors have been getting folks to see that it does all tie in together, and it's not a separate entity. It's not something extra that we're asking them to do. And what I look forward to is that it would be fully implemented in every district.
Oh, thank you. Anybody else want to go next?
I'll go. I am the MTSS coordinator for Owsley County Schools, and I'm grateful that we have been able to establish an MTSS team in Head Start, elementary, and middle high school. Each year we use the Kentucky I think it's MTSS self-assessment. And as a result of that, we're able to see where we're at and what we need to do to move forward. The people I work with are so supportive. One of the challenges is I'm getting ready. We have the MTSS teams within these schools, but one of the challenges is that I'm getting ready to start a student support team structure at the elementary and at the middle high school. We have a site director at each one who is able to do that. It's just, I need to figure out how to do that gradual release so that they can take it over because, after a while, there's just so much many meetings you can be a part of. And, when I'm gone, I want this to continue. I don't want it to be, well, now that you're gone, it's over and done with, because it is focusing on the whole child. And, all those parts have to go together in order for that to be successful.
Thank you so much.
It will continue on when I'm gone.
That's true. Oh, yes. Oh, Debbie, thank you so much. If there's any way we can help you, don't hesitate. But congratulations and condolences, I guess, for being MTSS coordinator. Sorry. But that's awesome. It's a lot of great work going on there. But yes, sounds like a lot of good things. Thank you so much for sharing. Next to go, sharing your rose, thorn, and bud.
I'll go next, Mrs. Belcher.
Thank you, Ms.
I'm Miss Clevenger from Pikeville Independent, and the rose, I feel like, with our district is that we do focus on the whole child, and from the top down, our admin, they really know the importance of the MTSS. Thorn, I think the thorn, probably similar to other schools, the challenges would be, everyone not just seeing it as one more thing, but as, holistic, what the child needs in all areas, social, emotional, academics, and so on. Look forward to. So we have an initiative with Leader and Me, and I look forward to seeing how this integrates with that, because it's a lot of similar things.
Oh, that's awesome. Please share with us with how all that goes with the Leader and Me. That's a great thing. I really like that. And thank you so much for sharing, Ms. Clevenger. Uh, Anybody else want to share? Brana, do you have anything? Do you want to share, Mr. Hall?
Mr. Hall, go ahead, or I'll share. It doesn't matter. Oh, he's going to share. Good. I thought you were going to go first. Well, go ahead.
I just said ladies first.
Oh, ladies
first.
Well, I was just kind of thinking along the same lines as Bernadette. We're grateful, or I'm grateful that we have all the resources and that the schools have access to all the resources. I mean, there's so much out there. And the thorn is getting through all that and really, helping the schools get started or get through or build their plan. That's a challenge for me. And then I'm kind of like Debbie. I just look forward to hoping that everybody, that when they do have their plan and they do utilize it, implement it, that it really works for them, that that's their, that's their success.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. That's wonderful. All right, Mr. Hall. Kelly.
Okay. A rose for us, I guess, is we've been working on MTSS for about 3 years now. And we still work with Miss Megan Martin. She comes to our district maybe once a month. We've really tried to focus more on our tier 1 because our problems, we have the upside down pyramid. We've got too many kids needing tier 2 and tier 3, which I guess is a thorn. And so we put a lot of work into our tier 1, especially our reading instruction. Still need to do some work with math. And another thorn is we've had a hard time. None of our schools besides our high school has a guidance counselor. So SEL has been a thorn, and really just getting buy-in for screeners for SEL. A lot of parents, they're reluctant to want their kids to participate in the screeners for SEL. I guess what I look forward to is when we are meeting all of the needs of all of the students. And, that is our ultimate goal. We know we're not there yet, but I mean, we're working every day to get there.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing. And Mr. Hall, let me tell you, you're not the only district that's got some upside down pyramids too. I'll tell you that you're seeing that with a lot of them. And so just awesome. So lots of good things going on in districts, knew that. And thank you so much for sharing. Sometimes it's just nice to do a little check-in with our staff and with our students, at times, just to see, and just taking a few minutes to do that. I would say let's take a break, but we are almost finished with the meeting. So if you all are okay, I'm just going to keep going with our slides, and we'll let you go a little bit earlier, but you still can mark, I've already filled in the slide for 2 hours because I know you probably might go when you've reviewed some of the resources, maybe after, if you have a chance. But I do want to make sure that you all are aware on the Padlet that we have, and I'm going to drop these in the chat so that you all can click on them too. I need to update the Padlet. There's a couple of things. I'll get that done today. That's one of my Tuesday things that I do, but you'll notice that we have all the roles. There is also an MTSS coordinator role. So yes, we did put Letcher County up there, and I would love if some of our other Eastern Kentucky districts, so many times our Eastern Kentucky districts are not highlighted. And the sad thing is you all are doing so many great things, but you don't realize how great they are. And so sometimes we are hesitant to share what's going on. But a lot of you are doing some really wonderful things, and just, sharing those with the state so that they see some of the great things going on here in Eastern Kentucky. Melissa mentioned that she's going to release the newsletter this week, so you can see that will be changed when that comes out. I'll swap that out and put that in here. some of the trainings that are coming up, and there's that DEIB Leadership Summit on January 30th, which does tie into MTSS, but try to put a lot of things that connect to, even I'm going to go and add the Kentucky Avery if it's not already on here. But you'll notice that lots of different things on here. There's the KYMTSS website. I've got it on there twice apparently because it's so important. I'll take one of those off. And then that implementation guide that Melissa, and I think I'll put that self-assessment tool on there too as a direct link, because those are two wonderful, wonderful tools for you all as MTSS coordinators. But you can also see across that there's several other things. But like the November 10th, that was last week. So I do need to delete that. I want to delete that while I'm on here with you also. I got it done. But just all kinds of different information that we try to share on here to make sure aware of in relation to your role. And if there's anything that I'm missing, please don't hesitate to share with me. I think I will go and put Melissa's coordinator dates on there as well so that people can get access to that on there, which I know she said that's going to be in the newsletter too. But just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. On our PL calendar, you will notice that we have several things. Yesterday, we had another training with Megan Martin. We're doing a series with her with evidence-based practices with behavior in schools, mental health. So our next one for that one is here on December 4th, and that's the progress monitoring tools for behavior. So people can still register for those. I just keep going back to that registration page and put those in. So be sure that you let people in your district know that those are available. So just kind of wanting to make sure that you know those things. This has all our things. We have Brana. She's got her new school counselor academy next week on the 21st. So just all kinds of different supports that we're trying to provide for districts. And if there's other things that we're not getting in there, please share with us of things that you need to be able to help and support you all the best that we can. The other thing is our contacts here. We have Brana Francis. I'm going to let her do just kind of talk around some if anything you want to share, Brana, in relation to, I know you help with counselors, SEL. Anything else you want to share?
Well, counselors, like you said, November the 21st is for the new counselors. And if any of your new counselors haven't registered, just remind them to register, and I'll be sending out another invite, another notification or reminder for them. And then our next counselor cadre is in December. I think it's December the 5th. And that's for all counselors. And then we also have, Kagan, December the 1st, that right, Mary? And then we have, I feel like I'm on radio. And then SEL, I know, I feel so radio-ish. Anyway, and then we have SEL. We're working on the guidance document from the state. We've already finished it, but we're doing how to roll it out. And I think we're working on the district levels. That's our group. Okay. So then that'll be coming out too. And we continue to work with Rachel on PBIS. And we've got some other trainings coming up, and we're going to do some modules for them. It's emotional poverty, and I think that will help a lot of your tier 3 kids. Emotional poverty, and then we have understanding the framework for understanding poverty, and we just finished the R rules, which is good for transition and resources for kids, so kids will know what kind of resources that they have or that they're that they can get, take advantage of. And we also have Boys in Crisis. And I feel like that one will be good for Tier 1 also, because we know we have a bigger number of boys that are identified as special ed and a bigger number of males that are suspended or get detention. I mean, unless some of you all have a different, different data on that, but that's what we see the most. So, I guess that's about all that. Oh, and then in March, which we can talk about that again, March the 13th, we will have Keith Brown is coming, and he's kind of well, he's really good, but he's a motivational speaker. So if you have I want you to send your teachers, because we want to kind of get them ready for, the end of the year assessment, and just kind of give them a little refresher and get them back motivated for the end of the year. Bern, she's got something to say. I looked at her.
Well, we're collaborating on all those trainings, and she did a very good job of explaining it all. And plus, I have my DEIB information. I have those training materials that I could share with anyone. I also have the equity dashboard information that I can help someone with. And also the state's working on a new equity playbook that would be sustainable even after this year when money is gone. If they have their own, then they're not having to pay someone. So I'm going to be a part of that.
Awesome. Awesome. And if you have any questions for Bronna, Bernadette, or myself, I'm just their support. I just do what they tell me to. On that.
Thank you, Mary.
You're not fooling anybody with that statement.
Oh yes, no, that's not.
Don't make me put you out now.
Don't call me out there now.
I called you out.
You did.
She did
it. Yes, she did. They do a wonderful job. And some other things that they didn't mention, like we've had districts reach out for maybe training on classroom management with new teachers. Mm-hmm. They have went out and done that. And so anything that you all need, or if a need arises in your district, don't hesitate to reach out. And, when people reach out to me, if I'm not able to do it, we have somebody in-house here that can help in some way. Mm-hmm. Of the needs that you have. So please don't hesitate to contact us.
Thank you, Mary. That's exactly right. Reach out anytime. And I'll tell you something that I have seen through all these trainings we've been doing. Everything ties together, and I see that connection. And it's my hope that we can help districts to see that connection more.
Well said, Bernadette. That is absolutely spot on. Thank you. And then our next slide is just our next meeting dates. January 30th, when the planning meeting came together, the thought is kind of going a little bit after when we would do some tests, when you all do your benchmark assessments, because do you have questions? And I do want to open that up. Are there questions or things you want to share? We just had our data days. With districts that you could come and dive deeper into your data, which seemed to go very well, because just like you all were saying, we got the KSA data, which is, great to take a look at and see, because that's one moment in time. But in those data days, we did dive deeper we looked at universal screeners and making comparison between it and KSA, and looking at our behavior data and our attendance data. And in one district, while they were here, they made the DPP, they brought their DPP with them. And he mentioned when he was looking at this data that he honestly shared that he didn't pay attention to excused absences. It didn't matter how many excused absences kids had. He focused on unexcused absences. And in looking at this data, he got to see who were these students that were chronically absent all the time, even though they had an excuse. And he said that the number of days missed, because the data that we pulled from showed both absences, excused and unexcused. And the number of absences was alarming. And so on the day-to-day, they set out as a goal to really target attendance for excused and unexcused, because if a kid is missing 10 to 12 days, excused absences, that's 10 to 12 days of instruction they're missing. And that there was, kids are going to be missing out with that. So just kind of we also shared the data dashboards for each district. So hopefully everybody on here has access to your data dashboard. If not, please let me know. Jacob, who is phenomenal, and yes, he would be able to help if there's additional tweaks that we need to make, but he is awesome at taking data and helping putting it in a visual representation for you. So please make sure that you reach out if that is something of interest. But those dashboards were I told him what I wanted, and he's the one that made it come to life. And so that's us working through that. So just want to do a shout out to Jacob for helping with that project. But our next meeting day is January 30th. That should be after the winter benchmarks. And so if you all want to have some discussions, kind of looking at some data there, want to make sure and do that. And then April 15th would be the last one, and we'll select our meeting dates for the next school year of when to meet. And we'll set those in stone and hopefully nothing will come up that is an issue with those. The last thing is just thank you for being here. If anybody has any questions or comments or anything, please, drop something in the chat or unmute to speak. Appreciate you all being here today. I am going to drop in the chat the feedback survey. And if you don't mind, anything additional that could be provided. Bronna, you mentioned Rachel Jenga. I think she would be a great person to have for PBIS at our next meeting, and we could have her to share. She would be a great one, and Megan Martin, because Kelly mentioned her. We might have the two of them on the next meeting. And Melissa, if you would be able to have that on your calendar too, and come back with us, because we love having you to provide updates with KVE on our dates. But we got finished early, y'all. Yay. But when you click the link, it should have some things already filled out for you. And like the amount of time, it's got 2 hours. So you look at some of the resources that was shared by Beth or Melissa, so that you can, and I know that you're taking time outside of looking at some things too for MTSS, but just a wealth of resources. I'm going to drop this PowerPoint in the participant folder, and let me put that in the chat too. That would be something good to put in there, wouldn't it? But I'll put that in the chat. But just so appreciate you all being here today. And, like we said, anything we can do to help between us here at KVEC and Melissa at KDE, always willing to help you any way that we can. But thank you all so much for being here today.